In our last video, we had a look at the principles behind calibrating an espresso grinder, and I'd encourage you to have a look at that video if you haven't had a chance to yet. And in this video, we're going to talk through the practical process itself. So we're going to calibrate this grinder with this espresso machine. And before we do, a quick note about the recipe we're going to be following. And if you did watch our previous video, make sure you take this recipe and apply it to your own situation and to your own machine setup. So we're going to start with a dose of 18 grams each time. And we're going to aim initially for an espresso weight or a yield of 36 grams. And my extraction time needs to be somewhere between 25 and 30 seconds. So the first thing we need to do is tear the portafilters on your scales. And then we're going to grind some coffee. We're not using the dosing buttons, we're doing this to eye. So we're getting as much as we think we need. We're looking for an 18 gram dose in this instance. So let's check that on our scales. A little bit short, so we'll go back to the grinder and add some more. Check it again, and we're slightly over this time, so we'll get a spoon. So while the portafilter's on the scales, we'll use a spoon and we'll bring it down to our target weight. And we've got precise scales, so we may as well be as precise as we possibly can here. And 18 grams is what we need. Now we're going to even that coffee bed out, so we're going to distribute horizontally and then vertically before we tamp. And make sure that tamper is nice and level before you apply the pressure. If you want to spin at the end, just for effect, you can do. So we'll attach the portafilter to the machine, we'll zero cup on the scales, and then we need to start the extraction and the timer at the same time. It can feel a bit clumsy until you get used to it with all the button pressing. But once you try it a few times, you'll really get the hang of this. Now we're going to stop the extraction short of our target weight because there's a bit of water left in the portafilter. So I'll stop it at 33 grams and check the time at that point. And that's our extraction time. So there we are, a 19-20 second shot of coffee. It's not gone over the 25-second target I was hoping for. So it tells us that the grind setting is too coarse. The water is flowing through that coffee bed too quickly and it won't pick up enough solids on its way. The coffee is going to taste under-extracted. It's likely to taste very sour and very sharp. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make an adjustment. We're only ever going to adjust one thing, and that's going to be the grind setting. And we're going to go a touch finer. So the second shot, and there's not been a huge amount of difference. Even though we adjusted the grinder, we've got a very similar shot time, perhaps even slightly quicker. It's worth noting these things happen. You can think you've done something and the coffee stays the same or even goes back the other way slightly. There is all kinds of things going on with an espresso machine. In this case, it's probably some heat build-up in the group heads that's kind of counteracting my change in the grinder. So let's persevere. And let's change the grinder again, and we're going to go finer again and see what happens. So my third shot of coffee, and we're around about 23-24 seconds, much closer to where I want to be. I think I can make it a little bit better. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to taste the coffee just yet. I'm going to get it where I want it to be, and then I'm going to start tasting it to see what the results are. So this time I'm going to make a slightly smaller adjustment. I'm still going to go finer. So I'm going to try and push it over that 25-second window for myself, and we'll go from there. Again, repeating the other steps as consistently as I possibly can. I've got a 27-second shot that time, and now it's time for me to taste the coffee to see if I need to make any more adjustments. Before I do that, I always like to stir my espresso before I drink it. The golden crema on top is the most bitter part of the coffee. And I don't like that bitter hit when I first start drinking. I want to taste the nice, rich brown coffee underneath. So I will stir for a while until that crema dissipates. And then I'll take a sip. Now, if you're new to espresso drinking, that first sip is going to taste quite intense. It is a strong coffee. So it's sometimes better not to judge straight away, but to take a second or a third sip. And I'll let your mouth acclimatize the intensity that you can have in the cup. Now, there's a great load of acidity in this espresso. It's not a tart acidity. It's a bright, juicy acidity that's coming from some of the African components in the cup. At 18 to 36, using this grinder in this machine, the coffee has very good strength to it. I think with milk as a flat white, it would be a great coffee to drink. As an espresso, I often like to soften it a little bit. And the way I do that is, I'm going to keep the grind setting the same, but I'm going to make another coffee, and I'm going to just put a little bit more water through. So rather than stopping at 36 grams, I'm going to run it 37, 38 grams, just a gram or two more. And that will just slightly weaken the espresso and should make it just a tad more drinkable on its own. So in that shot, I extended the amount of water that I used, pushing it to 37, 38 grams. So rather than stopping the shot at around about 33, I stopped this one around about 35 grams, and that residual water left over just pushed it up to 37, 38 grams. My shot time didn't creep up that much. There is a danger of sometimes pushing the amount of water you use up and your shot time goes too high as well. You don't really want it to go over 30 seconds. So it could be that you have to make a slightly coarser grind setting adjustment if you're playing with the amount of water you're using. So again, time for a taste. We'll stir as before. And what I hope to experience this time is still the acidity. I still want that nice acidity in the cup, but I expect it to be a little bit more sweetness, but the strength to be less, slightly lighter in the intensity of the espresso. And that works better for me as a straight espresso. I could happily drink that. It's the kind of strength I like. But that's the beauty of dialing in your own machine. You can play around with these things and create an espresso that really is to your own liking. So there we are, dialing in a grinder. It's a repetitive process. It requires consistency. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to just play with one variable and keep everything else consistent. You are just focusing on the grind setting to increase the extraction time or decrease the extraction time. Everything else needs to be consistent and you need to work in a methodical way. If you've got any questions or comments about this, please feel free to leave them. I'll make sure I respond to them. But thanks for watching this video, and it'd be really cool if you enjoy this kind of stuff if you could subscribe to our channel.